I remember the late Al O'Brien came in one morning. He was always very early, although I usually beat him in a little bit. And I all of a sudden felt a hand on my shoulder, and Al, who didn't have much hair on the top of his head, leaned over and said, "It's nice to see another guy with great hair." And that was sort of my welcome to the firm. Well, I was very fortunate in my academic career that I was able to go to medical school many, many years ago, and then practice in the province of Ontario for almost 4 decades. I think the thing about being a primary care physician, particularly when you have your own family practice, there is a continuity of relationship with the patients. When I eventually left full-time practice, it was a very emotional experience for both myself and the patients. There were kids in the practice that I quite literally had seen from birth through university. So I suppose knowing the people and their history and how the pieces in that particular family unit all fit together was hugely rewarding. I also was privileged to have other jobs at the same time, academic jobs, and ultimately with a large organization here in Ottawa. And that organization eventually downsized, and I was part of the downsizing. So I was presented with a very unusual circumstance of an opportunity to do a do-over. And that doesn't happen late in life to most folks. However, I had opportunity. I was unemployed. I had means because of my settlement. And I had motive because I'd always looked over my shoulder and wondered, gee, was medicine the right career? How about law? And the reason I wondered that was my father was a lawyer and later on a Superior Court judge. My brother was the presiding justice of the peace. And both my kids are lawyers, so I was sort of surrounded by this cabal of legal people and was always very interested in the ins and outs of law. So I decided the best way of spending my future was to go to law school, and I enjoyed it immensely.
Did you get any advice from your sons as you were going through the process?
Yep, they both said the same thing, and they don't agree about a whole lot of things, but they kept saying to me, read case law, and there's something to be said for that advice. I started my first year as an articling student here at Nelligan's. As far as the lawyers that I worked for, they were very good at treating me no differently than they treated anybody else.
Why is practicing law meaningful for you?
Wow. I think there are similarities between practicing medicine and practicing law. One has to be very sensitive to the nuancing that's coming from the client or the patient to interpret what exactly it is that they perceive as not only the problem but the solution. And it really is a very similar sort of activity. You're dealing with people who wouldn't come to you for the most part unless they had an issue, and they're asking for your help. And yes, it's very different in terms of the way you approach the solution, but the human dimension is very, very similar. When I decided to go to law school, people would say to me, well, you're going to go to law school? You're going to be 100 when you graduate. And my response was, I'm hoping to be 100 anyway. I may as well be 100 with a law degree. So I would encourage other people who are thinking about change and have the luxury, and it is a luxury, the opportunity and the finances. Don't hesitate. Take the risk. Make the jump.